Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. It's Tuesday, February 18th, and we are here trying to help you make better and more considered financial decisions. We're also here to maybe just listen to whatever's going on for you and help you navigate your financial journey. If you need some help, go to the website, jillonmoney.com. Click the Contact Us button, write us a note. And if you want to join us on the air live, check the box. Mark will do everything else. While you're on the website, don't forget you can subscribe to our beautiful Jill on Money live service. That's where you have access to quarterly live webinars. Next one's coming up soon, Thursday, March 6th with Ed Slott. He's a CPA. He's an IRA expert. He is the man who is the Roth cheerleader extraordinaire. So if you have anything going on in your tax world, or if you have questions about converting to a Roth IRA, I should say, Ed's the man. You can only be part of the webinar if you join Jill on Money Live. $45 for the next 12 months. I'll tell you what, I think $45 is Ed alone. He's worth it. So that's all I'm saying. All right, Mark, we got to do some emails. I see they are piling up. Let's start with Kenneth, who says, my wife and I were married back in October. She owns the home that we live in. However, she would like to add me to the deed. How do we go about this in the easiest and cheapest way? There is still a house payment, which I have taken over. Thank you for your time, care, and assistance with this. Okay, there's always two things with this. Number one is adding a spouse to a deed is easy peasy. You literally can do this with a lawyer where you just say, hey, I am bringing my spouse as a joint holder of this asset with me. However, if she has a mortgage, you cannot necessarily be added to the mortgage unless you refinance. And now that is sort of a sticky situation. So if you can do it, if you could just add, sometimes they'll let you add somebody upon death, like a deceased, you have like two spouses and one's name was on the mortgage and the other one wants to take it over. So often a mortgage company will allow that. But during your life, it's a little bit harder. So if you had to refinance, that would stink maybe. So perhaps the best way to do it is to simply just, you go to a lawyer, you make sure that you now are joint holders of this asset, the house, joint with rights of survivorship. And that's that. And leave the mortgage alone. Don't touch it. Okay. All right. This is Brandon, who's 37 years old and works in TV and film. He's a freelancer. Net monthly income about $7,000. Okay. It's been volatile in the industry, but I've been fortunate to maintain work and I hope to do so on my current gig through the end of this year. My monthly expenses, not including savings, around $4,000. So he makes $7,000. $4,000 is the expense. He says, let's call it $5,000. I live in New York City. No car, no plans to buy a house. I receive very good health care through my employer. I plan to be child-free throughout my lifetime. Okay. So listen to this. Since January of 2022, I've taken my net worth from minus 44,000 to plus 40,000. Wow. That's so great. Current savings rate is about 40% of my net income, but a few times over the last couple of years, I've been able to get my way into a 50% savings rate. By the end of this year, I'll have my $36,000 of emergency reserves in a high yield savings account. I fully funded my Roth since 22. By the end of this year, there should be 28,000 in there. I do not have a 401k. If I understand my Social Security benefit, it looks like $2,400 a month at 62, up to $4,500 at age 70. While my industry doesn't provide a traditional pension plan, there is something called Motion Picture Insurance Plan that will provide me a pension of little under $4,000 a month. He must be part of a union. My main question is, when can I let my foot off the gas with a savings rate? I've spent all of my 20s living in and out of debt while building my career. I've gotten a late start, and the absence of over a decade of compound interest weighs on me heavily. God dang it, Brandon, you're doing great. You're 37. You've swung into the plus category. You're doing great. So he goes on to write, once I leveled up financially, I cranked it to 11. I kept my expenses low, sold my car, paid off loans, hoarded money in savings. And I know that typically even a 15% savings rate is considered adequate, but what if you're playing catch up? I don't have any immediate goals. It's partially because I've never been above water long enough to consider spending more. Right now, my long-term plan of getting out of debt and having 6 months of emergency reserves will be completed at the end of the year. And then I will continue fully funding my Roth. What's next? Brandon says, buying a house, even if I left the industry and moved somewhere else, feels out of reach. It would take so many more years. And if I do, I'd have to leave the industry and I'd lose all this and the pension benefit. But the prospect of indiscriminately dumping money into a taxable brokerage account feels like no savings rate will be high enough to make up for the lost time. Come on now. He says, I'm looking to be talked off the ledge and given some practical guidance on what savings rate I could pull back to now that my future is taken care of and I can start spending a little bit more. Side question, should someone in my position be looking into long-term care insurance for later in life? That's easy. No, don't do that. I don't want to be a burden on my family with no kids in my future. I'll be on my own in that way. Okay.
Killing himself.
He's killing himself. This poor guy. Okay, Brandon, you're great. Just calm down a little bit. So you got $7,000 a month. You're going to spend $5,000 a month. You're going to take that $2,000 and, as far as I'm concerned, you can just kind of slowly plug away in a brokerage account. So you'll do your Roth. That's great. And then put some money away in a brokerage account. You will build it up. You are under no obligation to be at a 50 or 40% savings rate. I mean, if you were happy and living that way, that's fine, but it sounds like you're driving yourself crazy. So why not back it off a little bit right now? Why don't we just let you kind of just say, well, let's go to 30%. Does that kind of ease the burden a little bit? That future benefit that you're going to get, which is not a traditional pension, but that motion picture insurance plan, that's pretty great. I have a lot of faith that that's a good thing, but I think if you just keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be fine. Mark, are you okay with him going to a 30% savings rate just to see how that feels and give him a little less of a burden?
Yeah, I mean, I can just feel the pressure coming through the screen, I mean, just max out the Roth IRA. Keep doing that. In 10 years, that Roth IRA is going to be $200,000 if you keep doing what you're doing. If you have any excess cash, open up a brokerage account. And yes, use the S&P 500.
Yep.
Knowing that pension is going to be there down the road, which is basically what you're used to spending right now. I mean, that's a huge, huge benefit. That's the equivalent of more than $1 million.
So what we want you to do right now is to take a deep breath, Brandon. You've come through a lot. You don't have to make yourself crazy.
Come to Brooklyn, have a drink with me.
Go have a lager with Mark. He'll be happy to take you out. No, really, it's okay. You can take your foot off the gas. Now, if you were at an 11 out of 10, you can go to an 8.5 and see how it feels. And all right, I love it. Feel that. Okay. So this is from Kay, whose subject is, can I retire at age 60? I will be 56 in May. My husband is 60. We have no debt. Their home, they own outright. It's worth $2.8 million. Listen to this. Together, they make almost $600,000. Okay. I'm a saver and an investor. I'm going to start laughing because I don't even want to expose these people for how funny this is about to be because there's a lot of money that we're talking about. So there's a 401k that has $193,000. Then there's another then there's a traditional IRA, which has $300,000. There's a brokerage account with $2 million. Did I mention the $2 million in the brokerage account, Mark? $70,000 in cash. Let's say the $2.5 million that we were talking about, that's what she knows about. And it could actually be more because she says, I don't know how much money my husband has. Come on now. How could that be? I only know that his Fidelity account is more than $1 million. He's frugal. And he has more money than I have. Anyway, they got a kid who's in a public high school. Oh, my God. So the public high school he went to, there was a fire there, part of the California fires. So they're sending him to a private school now. Tuition, $60,000. So Kay says, should I reduce my contribution to my 401k to free up cash to pay my son's tuition? I mean,
I feel like husband and wife need to have some conversation.
I'm just going to say, let's just be clear that the husband and wife had to get on the same page. If you want to pull back on your retirement contribution instead of being, sort of hyper saving and pre-tax especially, then sure, go do it. She says, I have a high concentration in individual stocks. 24% of the brokerage account is in Apple. 15% is in Google. Come on now. She knows she needs to sell some of those stocks. Why don't we sell some of those stocks? Just pay the tax that's due, pay for tuition, and move on. What's the deal? You don't have to sell your stocks. You could pull back, but you want to sell your stocks because you say you know you have too much in these high-tech stocks. So what I would say is this, Kay, you could do anything you want. You seem to have a lot of money. I think the number one thing you should do is have a conversation with your husband and start sharing information. Hey, this is a question. I was on the CBS Mornings talking about what happens like in the education department if they make changes and shut down the website and things like that. And here's looks like a public service announcement by a listener, Lynn, who says, this morning you advised student loan holders in the public service loan forgiveness program to use the auto pay option. My daughter is 1 to 2 payments away from forgiveness, and she has found her January auto payment was not accepted. Her February manually entered payment was also not accepted. What should we do? I would print every single bit of information out from that website proving that you've made all these payments. They're not going to
screenshots, Lynn.
Screenshot it all. I mean, for real, Lynn, this is like the time to get aggressive with this. This is not like the alarm bell. Like, I don't think that they're going to abolish a federal department, but could they make changes? Screenshot the dashboard. If you're enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan, that'll tell you how much time you have left. If you have in, the public loan forgiveness program, same thing, get the whole repayment history, certify the employment if it's been a while since you've done that. If for some reason that your daughter has the ability to buy back no payment months, do that. I would get ahead of this as much as possible, gang. I really would. So Lynn, let us know how that goes. That's all we can do right now. There's nothing else to do. All right. So what else do you want to talk about, Mark? Anything? Can I close the show now?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is to make sure you're having conversations with your partners.
Please talk to each other.
You can't have these completely separate financial lives where nobody even knows what's going on.
It's just not okay. It really isn't. All right. If you've got a financial question, go to JillOnMoney.com, click the contact us button, and let us know if you'd like to join us on the air live by checking the box. Don't forget to sign up for the free weekly newsletter. You can subscribe to us on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Try to lift someone up. It's going to make someone feel better, I promise. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.